The Breeders' Cup Sprint has a big field with a lot of early speed types, and the run to the turn is not as long as for the fillies. There's going to be a lot going on into and around that turn. David Jacobson does well everywhere except apparently at Del Mar, where he's 0 for 24. If Banishing was running at Oaklawn in the dirt mile, he'd be a very interesting proposition. But we have a hard time believing he will fire his best shot here. Ben Tornado jumped to a big one in this race last year, and the effort did enough damage that he disappeared for 10 months. That he ran well fresh is no surprise, and this situation is not as extreme as that of Tamara. But we don't want horses that came off long layoffs at top efforts, especially with an effort that hurt him before. The flip side of that situation is Big City Lights. Here's a horse with issues coming directly off a layoff, and if that wasn't enough reason to think he'll run well, Mandela is going to the Breeders' Cup instead of a Cowbred race. This is a live long shot. Dr. Venkman has earned an awful lot of money for a horse that has never run very fast. Imagination is another that came off a long layoff with a big effort, a new top in this case. His pattern before the layoff was very solid, and Baffert might be able to get another good one out of him, but we wouldn't want to count on it. He'd also have to avoid the wide trip he had last time. Copion ran 2 big ones early this year, then tailed off a little over the summer. She's now had 3 months rest and 6 since her last really big effort. Mandel is pretty good at pointing for a race, and if Copion runs back to one of her big ones, she'll be very tough here. Lovesick Blues ran by far the best race of his life when he switched back to dirt 2 back and went back some in his turf prep for this. On his best, he's a strong contender, but even if he prefers dirt, we wouldn't expect him to get back to that top anytime soon. Madhouse got much better over the summer, but even aside from the east-west ship, we wouldn't expect a new top off this pattern. Mulligan got much better at age 4 and ran what was at that time the second best figure of his life when he shipped to Del Mar for this race last year. He got back to his best this year at Saratoga before a clunker last time. Judging by the gap in his works following that, something went wrong, but he's had a series of strong works leading up to this, and now could be ready to run well. Nakatomi almost always runs well for him, but he's a little older now and a little slower, which makes him a borderline contender. If Patriot Spirit runs back to his last 3, he could get a piece of this, but he's making the east-west ship for a trainer who's never started a horse at Del Mar. Straight No Chaser shows a clear pattern of working down to big efforts, which then set him back. This one does not run his best when fresh. Presumably he goes Blacker is smart enough not to wind him up off layoffs. He's very likely to move forward now. The question is whether he'll get all the way back to -3. If he does, he's gone. What You're Talking About has one effort that would make him competitive, but that was long ago and far away. There are a lot of horses that could run well in the sprint, but only 2 we're pretty sure will run well. The 2 Mandelas. Copion is the most likely winner, and Big City Lights is very live to get at least a piece of it at a big price. Note that Mandela put him in here even though he also has one of the favorites.